You rode up on me way earlier than I've ever seen you here on this island. I couldn't tell from the total time elapsed, but I was probably out there for an hour maybe, something about that.
Yeah, close to it. We're 54 minutes for me, so yeah, 56 for you.
Okay. And I think you rode up on me first, or was it Chris?
No, it was Chris.
And then you.
Yeah.
And then there was a little gap.
Right.
And it was I usually see you later.
Right.
So I was like, oh, I think TJ has really found his stride because of Lake Placid.
Right.
You've got more than a dozen experiences at the Ironman distance.
Right.
So I was like, oh, I think TJ's going to have an awesome race. And I was really bummed when on the way back into Kona, I saw Hillary Biscay and I asked how you were doing. And she kind of shook her head. She was like, oh, he's had a rough go and you were thrown out.
Yeah, it was a rough go. I was having a great day, and the week before, Chris Lieto came up to me and he said, what are we going to do?
Oh yeah, you talked to him about it?
Yeah, and so Chris and I kind of talked about some things, and you could probably tell since you were in on the part of it, it was just the three of us being in the front for a while. But Chris was telling me that he really wanted to work the downhills. And then he wanted me to work the uphills.
Okay.
And so you saw a couple times Chris sit up on his bars, on his bullhorns, look over his shoulder, see what's going on. That's Chris kind of just waiting for me to do my part on it. So, Chris, we talked about it. The idea was to put the pressure on early.
Yeah.
Chris obviously was really concerned about making sure that he was going to have some separation and that the runners were either going to pay for what they did on the bike or not be there. And he said the best way to do that is to just put it on from the get-go.
Yeah.
So I positioned myself.
Especially when the group comes out in the swim.
Oh, right. Well, one of the best parts, and I don't want to speak for Craig, but I came out of the water right next to Craig. We're on the steps next to each other, and Marino was also next to us, and Craig just looks over at him and goes, "Oh, fuck." And so, you know when that happens, you look out, and Mikey was out there with us too, and Ben Hoffman. So there were some guys that could ride that were out of the water, and that's going to put the pressure on someone like Craig right away.
Yeah.
And what we weren't expecting was for Craig to have the ride that he did. I mean, nobody was expecting that. But we were putting the pressure on early, and there was a little bit of a gap, and it was good. The best part was like you, I was having fun doing it.
Yeah. I had the most fun in this race this past weekend.
Right.
And you being there with me, it was actually fun. Like we could actually have a few smiles before the cannon went off.
Right.
And kind of goof around because we both realized it's just a race.
Right.
If it goes great, it's great. If it doesn't go great, the sun also rises.
Right.
And then on the bike, I was having a good time, and I think you and when I would ride past Chris, we seemed to have a.
I mean, think about it this way.
Good time.
For a good chunk of that race, there were 3 American guys riding 1, 2, 3 in this race.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of the last time that's ever happened. I don't know if it's ever happened here. And if it has, it was way before our time. You know, maybe Mark Allen, Dave Scott, and John Howard, maybe Scott Tinley, I mean, that would have been a long time ago before we were racing. So, in what we'll call modern day racing, or we could even go further and call it the aero helmet era.
Okay. All right.
Since the advent of the aero helmet, that's never happened. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's
I hope to see that last longer and longer and longer. Holding on longer in the ride. in previous years, you'll get away a little later,
Right.
and I'll end up seeing you before
Right.
Kona.
Right.
But it was really nice to have. I honestly felt a sense of camaraderie between you, me, and Chris out
Right.
there.
Right.
It felt a little bit more like a good time, like good, honest, tough racing,
Right.
where we're
Right.
challenging each other but bringing out the best in each other at
Right.
the same time.
Right. Yeah, I was really thrilled about it, and I actually preferred it when it was just the three of us riding out there. I was a little disappointed. It got a little touchy on the 10-meter rule in there a couple times when some others joined us.
Yeah.
I wasn't really
Slotting.
happy about that. Right. The slotting I got real upset with. And I was upset too because there was an official bias when it was happening, but it wasn't much going on.
I put my hand up twice in the race, and there was an official directly on my left each time, and I raised my hand. I was like, "Are you watching this? This is not a slot."
Right.
And he slotted right in front of me, and it happened twice to me, and I have no choice other than to back off because
Right.
I'm not willing to risk a penalty.
Right.
And it was unfortunate to see 4 penalty tents empty every time I rode past
Right.
them. And
Right.
although it was fairly clean, they should have been giving out some penalties.
Right.
And,
Right.
I was a little disappointed because some people do like to play it a little on the aggressive side, like they take
Right.
their chances
Right.
because they're willing to take the benefits along
Right.
with it.
Right.
So I was a little disappointed.
Right.
I didn't see one person get a penalty. I
I
don't know if
didn't
there
either.
were any given, at least to the players.
Yeah, not to any of the big players, which is disappointing because a lot of times it's the big players that are
Taking the most
taking.
chances.
Yeah, right. And it sends the wrong message to them when they don't get caught,
Yeah.
because it just encourages them to continue to try to make it happen.
I think we did see less of it, but it was still there.
Right.
The train wasn't nearly as long.
No, it wasn't. And that was one of the things Chris and I talked about, was that especially when we came out of the water and there was that big of a front pack.
Yeah.
We thought, man, this could get ugly for a long time with one big train. But when the pressure's on that fast from the beginning, it's gonna make people be more honest. And then what we saw were these smaller groups, so you saw the time gaps be a lot more significant. And we saw a lot more people coming into town solo, by themselves,
Yeah.
or with one other
Yeah.
person or 2 other people.
Spend some time riding your bike by yourself.
Right.
I'd like to see more of that.
Right. It gets lonely out there
It
when
does.
you're by yourself.
I've been by myself. Every time I've been out here, I've been by
Right.
myself.
Right.
So.
That should be part of the racing. One of the things I think, and I know you're a man who likes to take it out hard from the get-go and race as hard as you can. So one of the things that I'd like to see Ironman do is have a half Ironman World Championship with a time trial start. Just a whole separate event. Just a whole separate event.
I'm in.
That's
Sign me up.
that's time trial start.
Yeah.
I'm in too.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'd do it for sure.
Yeah, I mean like a 5-minute gap between people going and do the same thing like cycling does. Give it, you got a draft zone of 100 meters.
Okay.
You can't. Once you pull in within 100 meters, you better pass the guy, and then once he's in front of you, you got to drop back 100 meters.
Yep.
Because you started 5 minutes behind him. So when he passes you, he's obviously riding fast. I agree with you when you're talking about having it be fair. It's a little bit like the Lifetime Fitness race in Minneapolis. We've talked about that. The road's narrow there, and there's a big pack of guys.
I get it.
And it's not fair. It's not. But I honestly think the only solution to officiating is to use GPS sensors for officiating.
Can we get to that point?
I was actually kind of disappointed. Heather sent out this email about using the live GPS tracking for the athletes. I thought, oh, how cool, you can have this. And I was like, this is the stepping stone to having it be a fair race, especially on the bike. Because if exact position is known all the time, then we can calculate whether or not someone's 10 meters ahead or not. And we can just see, did this person go within 10 meters and then back out? Did they slot in between 2 riders that were 10 meters?
Yeah.
You could just program an algorithm to tell at the end of the race, sorry, you had 18 drafting
Right.
violations. You're disqualified.
What I'd like to see is, I'd like to see the officials from mile .00 to mile 112 officiate the course from the start to the finish. I don't want to see them start officiating at mile 8.
Right.
That bothers me
I
because
agree.
I'm by myself in
Right.
town,
Right.
which is a highlight, one of the highlights of my day.
Right.
So, but I see everyone on. Is it Wallaha?
Kuakini.
Kuakani?
Kuakini. Yeah.
Kuakini.
Yeah.
Right. So it's Kuakini. I'm coming down, and I see this mob riding up together, and like, I mean, I can't do anything about
Right.
it,
Right.
other than ride hard.
Right.
And, buddy, I would like to see the officiating start from mile 1 or mile 0 to mile 112.
Right.
And it's the World Championships.
Right.
Officiate the entire course.
Right.
Hey, buddy. Hey, I'm in the middle of a conversation. You mind giving me a second?
Did you have lunch?
I haven't had lunch, and I promised to go swimming with you in the pool. Can you give us 1 minute?
Do you like to swim?
I think then there was my friend there.
Oh, really?
Who's the faster swimmer, you or your dad?
Funny.
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 Who's faster swimmer, me or TJ?
Funny.
That's a funny question. Don't even ask those
Come on,
funny
that's
questions.
silly.